everyone's on the same page fully, but then after that, don't like restate the whole motion again, especially if it's really long. And then you also yeah, you don't really need to also like state like your job scope. I think I've mentioned this to FAUPs, right? You don't really need to be like um you can briefly say, but keep it very brief. So you can just go straight up like, today I will be making two rebuttals and blah 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 blah. Because when you say like, my job here today is to bring up three arguments. The first argument is this, and then my second speaker will bring. It's just wasting time because we're gonna see that anyway when we move on with the speech, right? So just save your time and just get on with it. Okay. And then so throughout the debate, right? I think it started off pretty well. So like in general, you guys sort of did put yourself in the shoes of the company. But then I'm not sure exactly where it sort of just went haywire. Because until the end of the debate, you guys were no longer debating on as the company as a whole. Because I couldn't see how any of the arguments or anything that you guys would say led back to the company. How does this benefit or harm the company as a whole? So you guys talked a lot about like society, how society views these type of shows or these remakes, or how can they accept new ideologies through these shows, which would be good arguments if it was not an motion. Because at the end of the day, if you guys want to bring out all these, which I will talk more later, you can, but remember to always tie it back to your action. Always keep like the actor in your mind and say like, right now, as a company, what is my biggest goal? Which is honestly to make money, because you have people to pay, you have a life as well, right? Okay. And then another thing is there were a lot of rebuttals or a lot of like speech centered on examples. So examples are good to bring up, but keep it very brief, because your example at the end of the day is just an example. It's not a solid argument. Yeah. So for me, some of the arguments that I kind of picked up were from your examples because I just wanted to see where you're sort of leading to. But during VC Cup, the judges might not bother doing that because it's not their job to actually sort of analyze your example and see where you're going to. You want to keep it like straightforward, tell them your argument, and then use your example just to support it. Keep it like 1-2 lines briefly, that's it. Don't spend 1-2 minutes expanding on your example because it's not going to do anything to your argument at the end of the day. Yeah, and also there's no point in really rebutting examples because, like I said, example is just there, so like a passing thing, just to like bring the argument together, but it's not really that important now. And then yeah, but the main problem that I had with the entire debate is that I think somewhere, I'm not sure where, the actor just went missing. Yeah. So you guys were debating on more, it became more of like this, whether this house believes that, remake should be prioritized over new original film. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's get into specific speakers. We start with the Prime Minister. So Diha, I think you did a pretty good job defining kind of. I could sort of see where government is coming from. You guys centralize prioritizing as just putting it first. I think like what Josh said just now could have expanded a bit more on like how you guys would prioritize, which I think you did a great job because I could understand exactly how prioritizing, like you said, like means more resources, more time, more funding goes into these remakes instead of original films. So I think from that side, I got more from opposition. So it kind of like helped me understand, okay, how these companies actually be prioritizing these films instead of original films. And then for your stakeholders, for Gov, you guys mentioned it well. Like you said, like, you put the companies, the people, the staff, the crew, even the audience, right? For your stakeholders, one thing that I kind of like to do when I bring up my arguments is I try to make sure that every argument I bring up can relate to at least, let's say you bring up three stakeholders, can you relate to at least two of my stakeholders? Because that is who you're debating for today, right? In this debate, you're not debating for like the entire world, but you want to centralize it to these people. So when you think of your arguments as well, think of it that way. That's why, like early on in your time, to always determine your stakeholders fast, so that your arguments can always tie back your stakeholders. Status quo. Okay, burden proof. Okay, yeah. So on that side, I think framing characterization was okay. Um, yeah, and then your argument on government side, the first argument was that it offers you as the studio financial security, which is a pretty strong argument. And I think you guys were like trying to relate it back to like fan base, right? You say that your fan base will still be there, and then that's why people will come back and you have financial security, right? So on that side, I can see where you guys are coming from, but I think you guys can do better on analysis for that, because you say that you're relying on established fan bases, right? But why is that so important? Like, why are fan bases so important for you to have financial security? Because did bring up the idea of like new films can also give that same impact, because fan bases can still be built from there, right? So I think if you want to build on the idea of fan base, right, you really need to enforce and you really need to like shove it to me that like these fan bases are like essentially for you as the company is like an easy way out. You know what I mean? You don't really have to like think super hard on and focus on like new ideas on like or like satisfy like what I think up brought up during your POI, I think like you want to have new ideologies every single time to like satisfy new people, right? Yeah. So you can build on that, right? You say that that's exactly why we want to focus on remake and sequel, because these are already established, right? There is definitely, whether people like them or not, people are still going to watch them at the end of the day, right? You as a company, you're still going to get profit. Whether they trash on it or what, that's tomorrow's news. But you're still going to get money, you're still going to get popularity, you're still going to be talked about. You know, your company is still going to be talked about no matter what, even at Stranger Things. Yeah, that's why. Because I see where both of you guys are coming from, but it was more on the side of the viewers. You know what I mean? But as a company, whether I get trashed on or what, I still get paid. Netflix still gets money. People are still streaming. People are still paying monthly for a Netflix subscription or like Disney Plus, whatever. So, you know, it doesn't really affect me as a company. I still produce what I want to produce and people still watch it. Yeah. Money that is spent on advertising, because like let's take a movie, they know that it's not going to sell well, but they still have to promote it because they already made. And the money that they're spending on advertising, making all the viewers, you know, that money is going to drain them of their resources, right? It's like kind the money that they put into the investment that they put into the reason is going to be good, going to spend money on a lot of stuff like brand endorsement. Yeah. I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, let's say I'm Gov, right? I can also twist that and say that it might fall back even harder if I pour the same amount of resources into advertising something completely new, something that nobody has heard of, something that is like really a new complete ideology or something very like niche, you know, created to a certain type of people. But let's say, you know, I'm Marvel Studios, right? We can just say, oh my gosh, guys, Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to Doctor Doom. Instantly, you have all the Iron Man fans since day one coming back to watch just because RDJ is being brought back, which is the same thing. When you recreate something and you also play on the idea of nostalgia, it can go both ways. But as government, you can use that to your advantage, because whether nostalgia is a bad thing or a good thing, people are still going to watch. People are still going to pay that same amount of money, even if you bring back something that probably the original movie was like 15 years ago, like Avatar. You bring it back, people are still gonna watch it because you are playing on that kind of familiarity and that emotion feelings, right? Yeah. So yeah, so that was one thing. I kind of talked about the second, third points as well. It's okay. And then let's move on to LO. Like I said, I really like that you really characterize more on prioritization and how it will actually reflect. So that one, I credited that more towards your side because it gave me a better picture. So I do like that. And then I could see that your stakeholders were mainly, I think, focused to like the creative minds, like independent filmmakers, smaller companies. But then again, we are debating as the bigger production companies, right? So that on that side, I couldn't really credit it much because at the end of the day, as a company, I don't really care what happens to these younger creators because that's on them. I still want my money. Yeah. And then status quo, border proof, everything was fine. Yeah, it's fine. And then okay. And then from side opposition, the first argument was that now there is disproportionality. So I could see that the main things kind of surrounded disproportionality, lack of representation, and yeah, underrepresentation, right? Okay. And there's also like limited resources now to individual or like emerging young filmmakers. Yeah. But then again, how would this affect me as the big company, right? Because I don't really care whether these filmmakers have, you know, a successful career or not, because I still win. People still watch my shows. I still get paid at the end of the day. But on like the side of like lack of representation, certain minorities being represented, I think that one could build a bit more because that one you can lead it back to saying how it affects companies' image as a whole, right? Because certain companies you see like all their characters are just white males or like typical blonde, skinny white females, right? And then you see certain people leaning away from that because there's no diversity. People don't feel seen, people don't feel heard. So at the end of the day, it can affect your company's image as a whole. So on that, I think if you had built more on the lack of representation, it would have been a stronger argument. And then let's move on to DPM. Yeah. Oh, also, Josh, you stopped at 6:30. Yeah, so it's okay. You still have like extra time. You can just like work on that. Yeah. But everyone timing wise was okay, so that was good. Let's move on to DPM. DPM, I like that you called out that we are focusing on us being big corporations and not independent studios. So that one, it was called out, but then still halfway through the debate, it just sort of like everyone just went everywhere. Yeah. But I like that you called it out because it's a very good point, and usually it discredits it would discredit their argument as well because the argument was very centered on individual filmmakers. Yeah. So from DPM, I got 2 points. First one is that it would strengthen the branding of a certain show or a certain movie, whatnot, right? So it can become more inclusive with newer technology, newer ideologies being put out. It can also speak to more people, younger and newer viewers. So this one would lead back to retention of fan base. So, and this one you briefly mentioned about how it would lead to more recognition for the studio as a whole. I think this was a good point, but again, it wasn't built very well. It was more of like a statement and then just a few supporting lines to it. Because I couldn't really see exactly why it's true. Like, why does this happen? Like, why does the strengthening of the brand actually lead to attracting newer quality fans, like fans that will actually stay and fans that will actually contribute back to the corporatization of your company, right? Yeah. So I think you could have built that a bit more, but I could see where you guys are coming from. And then another point that you guys brought up was, I think it's kind of related to the first point as a whole, is about attracting younger people with like newer ideas, through remakes, because remakes like speaks to people's familiarity, so that people would be more prone to watching these remakes, and that's where you can push new ideologies. And I like that point, but you guys didn't really tie it back to how it would affect me as the company, right? So I think you guys could have centered that and said like, when you push out new ideas and everything, right, especially in today's world, people like that, right? Because people like to talk, like that's why people like diversity, people like representation, because it makes people feel seen, people feel heard. So when you have more shows, or you take like, let's say, Cinderella, and now it's like more focused on women empowerment, you talk to more people in today's world, like, you are attracting like women, and like, I don't know, you know what I mean? You guys see where I'm coming from? Yeah. So on like SiteGov, I can see where you guys are coming from, but it wasn't built well, centered on you as a company. Yeah. And then from BLO. Oh, yeah, okay. BLO. You said from what I got from BLO was that I think you rebutted a lot. So most of your time was actually spent on rebuttals. And so your argument wise, I couldn't really sort of differentiate where you actually stopped rebutting and where you started the argument. So I think one thing you could have done next time is like probably maybe signposting to just say like, so next my second argument from outside, or my first argument today is, so it's a clearer picture. But I could sort of like pick out what you guys are trying to say, right? It's also mainly on the idea of disproportionality in the industry as a whole. And also you guys about on how cinema should be shared, and like not just centralized on like a few certain ideas on what we have, but it should be inclusive to include everyone of all like different ideas, new, old, whatnot, right? But again, it's very hard to see how it would affect me as a company. Yeah. Because it's like, how do I put this? Because like for me as a company, right, when I want to like prioritize remakes, right, and basically put original ideas aside, whether it, yeah, like I said, whether it gets taken well or not, it doesn't really matter because I still get money. So I think what you guys could play on was, I like that you guys talked about nostalgia and how changing the plot of things can actually destroy that feeling, right? So I think one thing that you guys can mention is that sometimes, how do I say this? Yes, that, but also, okay, let's go with like this example, right? Okay, this example, don't really use it, but just to like, understand where I come from. Let's say like Little Mermaid, how they used sorry, Haley Berry, basically she was black, right? She was black. And even from the start itself, before it was even heavily promoted, or before anything was even released about the show, the moment she was casted, or the moment there was rumors that she was being casted, it already had like a huge backlash towards the entire crew or the company as a whole, because people feel like they are enforcing diversity into these little things, that what you guys say, like these shows or these original movies should just stay as it is, because it already tells a story from there. So you play on that story from there, right? So I think if you had um made that the center, like, and really showed that sometimes, all these things from the start itself, it will not be taken well. It will eventually lead to the downfall of the company as a whole, right? Because yeah, literally before Little Mermaid was even released, everyone was just trashing on her and also the company and also the movie as a whole. So at the end of the day, if it gets released, you can say that people might boycott it just for the sake of, going against the Little Mermaid is now black, People just hate the idea. Resources get wasted at the end of the day. You will end up losing more money. Yeah. So I think that's how you present it and play on the idea of nostalgia as a whole. And then from whips. So both of your whip sounds are pretty similar, where both of you guys more like bring out the argument and then rebut the argument as a whole, right? So just in, I think, did any of you guys call it clashes? No, right? No, right? Because even honestly, for me, I couldn't really pinpoint any substantive clash. Yeah, the main clash I could actually get was just on the idea of nostalgia and fan base attention. Yeah, so on like which side actually uses nostalgia to the advantage more, whether it's through originals and like not prioritizing remakes or through like prioritizing remakes, right? Okay, and then okay, I'll start with Gulf Whip first. So I think Gulfwit mainly just rebutted on the idea of nostalgia as a whole. And I understand why, because I think the debate was very much centered on nostalgia, so I do understand that. Um, then you talked about how I like the point that you brought up on how ideologies have not always been there since day one. Like they're constantly evolving, constantly changing, and that's why it should be shown through these remakes because, like it was mentioned earlier, these remakes are the ones that like kind of grabs people's attention and people are more prone to watch these type of remakes, right? So I like that. Um, and then suddenly, Garfield brought up like families bonding over like nostalgic films and how it also plays into like family time, which I see where you're coming from, but like I said, as an actor, as a company, I don't really care about that. I just want money. At the end of the day, all these big companies, what they really want is just money, fame, recognition. So you can use out all these points because I do see where you guys are going with all this. But just remember, always link it back to your stakeholders, which in this case is your company. And you as a company, you have your crew, your staff to pay, your audience to give you profit, right? Yeah. And then on up with, okay, we rebutted mainly on 3 points as well. So one nostalgia, second one is financial security, third about modernization.
Yeah, like the debate like spend his time pay any classes. What do I do? Because
Yeah,
it portrays a very bad image that I didn't get any classes.
actually it's fine because I think it will happen in VC Cup because most debaters are new in VC Cup, right? So there may not be very obvious clashes, but maybe you can do weighing. So like let's say on this point of nostalgia, right? What you could have done, I think, or maybe what um if you have like nothing else to talk about, right? And you want to paint the picture that you as art, you can take nostalgia and benefit it more to your side. So you directly click it and then you weigh. You say, so on our side of the world, how does this actually benefit us more? And then you can also maybe show like on their side what is their best case. Even if nostalgia is good for them, but does it actually benefit them in the long run? You know what I mean? Because like yeah, we may still get like drag, yeah, short term, long term impact. Because I do get it lah. Even within here, so there's not much we actually like directly rebut or give any clashes because yeah, it was pretty like the same thing over and over. Mm, yeah. And then on the point of stronger financial security, you brought up like duplication becomes boring over time, which I do like that. I think you could build that a bit more, sort of enhance your second rebuttal. Yeah. So and then yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Do you guys have any questions? Um, regarding like structure wise, I think structure wasn't too bad. I could tell where you guys were like going with all your like arguments, your flow and everything. I really like LO's structure. I think because it's pretty easy to follow. I think he gave pretty well time to say as well. You mentioned the argument. Oh, okay. Thank you, Diha. And then implementation. Yeah, argumentation. This one is for like everyone. Focus more on explaining why that is likely to happen. Why is this true? Why is it relevant? And how does this impact your stakeholders? Yeah, very important is to always tie back your arguments, tie back whatever you say, even as a wit, tie back your rebuttals, anything you want to say to your impacts. How does this impact your stakeholders? Because if it doesn't give any major impact or anything that is like impactful enough, then we won't credit it because it's just like, okay, that happens and so what? You don't want the judge to ask that for your argument. You don't want them to that, okay, so it, it had, you get some new fans in there. So what? What happens at the end of the day, right? Because fans come and go. All right, so how do you actually want to really say that these fans are the ones that really make and break your company, kind of thing? Yeah. I think that one to just keep that in mind. Impacting analysis, and then yeah, arguments don't really focus too much. Arguments, examples don't really focus too much on examples or like rebutting examples or even POIing examples. Just let the examples slide. Like even if it triggers you, because certain examples will trigger you guys. They will really sound stupid, and you're gonna want to call them out. But just let it slide. Save your time and win the debate. And then yeah, so I think that's about it. Do you guys understand me? Like I'm yapping a lot. Yes.
So what my structure?
Hmm.
So as a third speaker, I don't really have clear structure, but all I have to do is establish my key point and as well as rebut task, right? But I feel like what I did was mostly yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah,
Okay.
rebut.
Hmm.
Whereas I'm not stealing, but in theirs and so what's that structure?
I think it's okay if you want to do that because a lot of whip speakers have like different styles actually. Because whip is very flexible because it really depends on how the other team debates as well. But when it comes to establishing your what time is it?
Only now that I can decide to not
Now they get off. Usually it was off at 9, but it's off. Yeah, so like you don't want to focus too much on really like reinforcing your other speaker's point because that was their job. You can integrate their points into your rebuttals or into your weighing, right? Because essentially you want to like weigh out why your side has more bigger impacts. Then that's when you can bring your like side's arguments into your weighing to say that like yes, from our side we have proven to you why, and this gives a bigger impact. Why? The thing. You don't have to really like say like to talk on like my second speaker's argument on blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do that. Don't waste time giving more explanation, but spend your time actually proving why your side has a bigger impact. Yeah. And just try to like bring down their point with that. Cause yeah. And then so besides rebuttals, Lega, do you know about weighing, clashing,
passion.
clashing?
Yeah, I think I did the quiz.
With Matt, is it?
Yes,
Okay. So yeah, try to identify like clashes, even if it's just one. You can call that out. Even you can just say like, this whole debate has been so confusing that at the end of the day, there's only one clash, and the clash is blah blah blah. And here is why I will prove to you we win this clash. And then you go on with proving why you actually win. Because if the judge actually buys your side, then that clash, it will go to you. Yeah. So you win at least 1 point on that, unless the judges actually find more clashes. So like for me, I could only find one clash, which is on the idea of nostalgia. That's it. Yeah.
Point out a few clashes, but I didn't really emphasize it. Just just point it out.
Yeah. So that one, yeah, that one would be more on like um, structure and signposting. I think yeah, you can just say like the first clash is blah 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 blah. Second clash here today, so it gives a clear picture on like what you're actually doing. Or you can just say like now moving on to my weighing, and then you continue on. So you don't have to give like very full explanation of what you're gonna do, but just keep it short. Just say, so now my first argument is, so it just actually like directs the judge to where or like where you're going. Yeah, it gives like a proper flow to it. Nice, okay. Guys, any more questions? Anything you guys want to clarify? How's VC Cup going for you guys? Have you guys like gone through the pre motions? Everything okay?
It seems.
Yeah, team confirmed.
Like it's gonna be confirmed because I don't think the other two.
Okay, tak apa. We can go back up and then yeah, we can go back up and I hope they're still there. Are they still there?
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Oh, okay. So no, okay. Diha said she's scared, guys. Team FUU, your team, your first speaker is scared of the preliminaries. So you guys, yeah, you guys, even if it's just on like Thursday or Friday, preferably not Friday morning because you guys want time to prep. Just sit down with your team, go through the motions. Um, try to like you can even try to like categorize them yourself because you know like how a debate is you have a theme which you have three motions surrounding that theme and then you will rank. So from there, with the pre motions that we gave, if you guys can categorize them correctly, so that gives you like an upper hand because at least you know like what type of motion you completely want to avoid and then just disregard that. Yeah. So you can tell that. Yeah. Just veto guys. If there's okay, when it comes to ranking, be very smart with it. Whenever there's a motion that seems way too complicated for your side to debate or you have completely nothing to say at all, just veto it. Just veto it and then pray. Yeah. Pray that the other motion that you guys get is the one that you want to debate. Yeah. But don't veto wrongly. Vetoing wrongly is pain. It's very painful. Okay. So anything regarding VC Cup you guys want to ask?
I guess.
Okay, yeah. Oh, because you guys sent me the tentative. Yeah, okay. Tentative will be posted soon, guys.
Stay posted.
Oh, you could. That was good. Oh, thank you, my media. Thank you, Nisha.
Friday is this.
Yes. So Friday is a night online, but I I would recommend. Sorry, brain is dying. I would recommend if you guys can meet up physically and be together in one spot and actually debate that round. So like because even for like I think our time all we all did it together physically and for us last year all the entire prelims Friday Saturday were all online.
This is the first
Yeah.
time since 2019.
Yeah, this is the first time since 2019 where our at least 3 rounds of prelims are physical, so you guys can actually debate with everyone physically.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm getting some.
Yeah. So on Friday, we'll start at 8. You will have briefing, so you go through all the debaters briefing, equity briefing, those stuff, and then you have the actual round, and then the OA verdict, and then that will be the end of Friday. Saturday we will meet at FSD for all 3 rounds. So on Saturday, your last round. Do you guys know what a silent round is? I assume you guys know. Yeah. Okay. A silent round is basically after your round, you will not get any feedback. You will not know who wins. You will directly just go back to the main room, to the convening hall on that day. So you won't know who wins, and you won't be able to tell whether you break into quarterfinals or not. Right? Because the previous 3 rounds, they will tell you, the judge will tell you whether you win or lose, or which side, and then they will give the OA and stuff like that. But for the last round, it will be silent. So after you're done, you just go back straight into the hall, and then you wait for break announcement to see whether it's break or not. And on Sunday we start from quarters and then semis and then finals. We also have public speaking finals on Sunday if you guys want to come and watch. So if you guys don't break, because we will only have 8 teams breaking with 2 teams as reserve, so total of 10 teams who would come physically on Sunday. If you guys are not debating on Sunday, but you guys want to come and watch, it's completely fine. Just come and just pick a side, vote on someone, yay, but okay. But for closing ceremony, it will be Sunday night as well at Panggung Seni. It depends because we have 10 best speakers from the prelims round. So your prelims, you will each be scored individually for your speech. And then we'll have the top 10 best speakers. If you guys do get that, then you are also required to go to the closing ceremony and get your gift. Yeah. And then lunch will be provided on Saturday and Sunday. So you don't have to worry about lunch, but dinner is on you.
Cannot afford that.
Yeah, we're broke. Any other questions? Anything okay?
Oh, we're finishing already.
Yeah.
Yeah, go call.
Okay, you guys okay? So sorry, it's like 10:50 now. Thank you guys for coming. No problem. Thank you, Diha, for joining. See you tomorrow. No problem. Bye.